Hi, I'm Stephen Ward. This is my WeekTube project. Let's get into it. So, three key business problems and apply business analytics to it. Well, one is demand forecasting, and that is vital for companies to have for strategy over the coming months. You don't do anything without having a demand forecast. Like, let's just say you want to order ice cream sandwiches, well, and you decide to order the same amount you do in the summer months and it's December, that's not going to do you any good. But point being, it's vital for companies to have strategy over the coming months, and using supervised learning, you can feed the machine data to predict the future forecasts based off of previous data. And why do I say supervised learning? Well, because one, you have to feeding it data so it know what it's looking at versus like you give it random data. There's potential where it might not know what it's looking at, but also at the same time, it doesn't like take account into world events like gasoline, for example. You say, hey, let's order this much gas, and we have a budget of, let's just say, $10,000. Well, recently, with the gas prices rising and the oil costs rising due to conflicts abroad, you're now having to take into account and tell the machine, hey, this is our budget and stuff, and we need you to take account into this. Why do I say that? Because it's not just what you need to order, it's budget, because everything has a cost and you have to be able to budget everything. And like another problem is you have customers leaving and you don't know why. Well, you say you're a phone service company and your customers are switching from you to AT&T, for example. I wouldn't want to do that, but hey. Anyways, you would have to do unsupervised learning and feed the data of when customers leave and if there are other factors that you may not see. And why is that important? Well, because oftentimes you're looking for something, you're not going to be able to make a connection. The unsupervised is going to make connections of like, oh, hey, they're offering better deals during the summer months or whatever. And like, say, summer months is when you're losing your customers, and Verizon, for example, you're charging, let's just say, $900 a month for 5G, and AT&T is dropping down to $700 a month. Well, you can save $200 a month by locking in there with that contract. And so that machine's going to find a pattern so you know how to combat it and keep your customers. And the final problem is equipment failures. Businesses, stuff's going to fail. Equipment can fail without a notice and put a company on the back foot. Why is that important? Well, if your company is on the back foot and you're not able to produce or ship or whatever it may be that you're doing, you're going to lose money. And like General Electric, they have so many industrial machines that can have failures that can put them out for weeks. So they can't. So them running predictive analytics on their own machines and having parts and like say, hey, this is estimated when these parts wear out. One, customer service that's saying, hey, prepare for this, building that relationship. Hey, and this is when we expect ours to fail. Second, you can show regression that can show causes and make connections. Like say they have generators that run 24/7. Well, their parts may fail quicker versus others that run maybe only like 8 hours a day. They will have a longer lifespan, and making that connection of seeing all the bits and pieces that come together to form the lifespan, being able to prevent that. Data mining tools. So the first data mining tool for like regression analysis and forecast demands and business data and uncovering actionable insight will be regression. And it can create a forecast demand and revenue predictions. Why is that? Well, because it connects the dots. Like I said, ice cream in December, buying a lot of it when that doesn't make sense versus buying a lot of it in the summer. You can connect the dots. Hey, it's hot. People like cool treats to cool off. and that taste good. And what does ice cream do? Check all those boxes. It's looking for the connection. They can give you a forecast demand, classify the data, and like classification, the next data mining tool, and it sorts data groups based off past patterns. What does that mean? It's taking the past patterns of the data from like sales and all that, and it puts it into groups. And then, like, for example, credit card companies, they use the classification as data mining a lot, actually. Why is that? They check your history for fraud. They sort it into groups like me, like Zaxby's. And oftentimes, about maybe once every 2 weeks, sometimes more than that, depending on where I'm at and what I have to do for baseball. It's not a surprise you see that there. But the card and the companies know that. So it's like, hey, okay, Mrs. Average versus me. Like, say, I go buy a trampoline in California and I've lived my whole life and spent and purchased all on the East Coast. Yeah, that would raise some red flags. And I say trampoline in California because that actually happened to one of my cards once, speaking from experience. And saying all this, they monitor their purchases and like they put it and sort it into groups that, hey, okay, this goes here in this group and it's not out of whack versus like, say, again, the trampoline in California doesn't make sense. So, and it triggers a fraud like, hey, this doesn't match anything. Did you do this? And then right here, looking at data of truck driver crashes for like the source, secondary data of like truck driver crashes, and like here you'll see driver, and then under the driver, like there were the cause for the, like, you got non-performance, recognition, decision, and then performance skills. Then you have here vehicle, and then environment, all adds up to 100%. So like this adds up to the 87 here, which breaks down into separate categories. And then of that, here is relative risk and percent of crashes. Now, this does not show all of them, but this is most of them. Actionable insights. Drivers were responsible for 87% of semi-truck crashes from April 2001 to July 2003. Of that 80%, 38% was from bad decisions, which if we go back to here, it's decision making, which was 38% of that 87. So, and what that data initially shows is a good portion of crashes are from poor judgment. And how can we say that? And you look at one of the highest one is speeding, which is carrying, is 7.7 risk rating, meaning faster semi-truck travels, higher risk it takes, which you look over here, 7.7 driving, traveling too fast for conditions. Which, I mean, hindsight, yes, speeding does increase the risk, but with semi-trucks, it is dangerously high because you have to think about the weight of the truck, the stopping distance, and say you're just in traffic, those brakes can be extremely hot, and when those brakes are hot, they don't work. As my dad, who's driven 40-something years with FedEx, he always tells me, he says, traffic is the worst because the moment your brakes get hot, you can't even. He's like, speed limit is almost out of the question for a couple of miles just to cool them off. And then second highest portion of the crashes is driver judgment recognition, which, again, recognition of that 87% is 28. So, and showing that drivers aren't aware of their landings and stuff. And what is that? Like, you look down here, right here, inadequate surveillance, and then like unfamiliar with the roadway. You're not familiar with it, causes the risk to go high because you're not like, oh, this is here, oh, this is heavy area. Final insight, like, this is what affects drivers. Looking at fatigue, it shows an 8.0 risk, but below, not pictured, is a driver illness that is 34 risk. Continuing with that is drivers who aren't driving in a safe manner end up causing more accidents, like speed being the second highest for cause of accident And again, I know the other picture it showed like brake failure and stuff. This is drivers themselves, which had a higher accident rate than, let's go back to vehicle, which was 10% versus driver 87. Then drivers raise the risk when operating vehicles outside of a safe manner. And that's not just like driving recklessly, it's like not knowing your surroundings, not knowing the blind spot, not knowing the sort of area you're working with. And drivers who aren't 100% focused or 100% physically taking attention away from the road causes higher risk. Like you look just right here, for example, unfamiliar with the roadway, trying to take a little bit too, nothing crazy. Over the counter drug use 1.3 takes away, like I'm not saying you can't have medicine, but at the same time that medicine can cause you to slow down. Inadequate surveillance, you're not looking at your surroundings, which you're trained to do. Fatigue, again, not fully fit, you're tired, maybe the end of a long day, that's where it can creep in and can easily get you. And then you like even pressure at work from your bosses to thinking about that, like, oh, I can't mess this up, oh, I got to get there on time, I can't be late. That's going to add in. When you're thinking about it, you're going to proceed to carry a little more risk, probably do a little bit of speeding right here, traveling too fast. And even with recognition, you might find some roadway problems that you're just trying to get by. At the end of the day, several factors, but mainly if you're not 100% focused mentally or physically, if you're not operating the vehicle in a safe manner, it is going to get you. And that's the end of my thing. Thank you.